Have you ever stepped out in the phone booth to fly, and the persons whose push you need to fly higher are those standing on your cape? Well, this was the sad reality of my life a few years ago. And whether I shall turn out to be the hero of my own life, or whether the station will be held by anybody else, these pages must show. And so I crave your indulgence to grant me your listening heart as I flip through these pages of my life. On one of the pages is how I was described as ugly, not enough, and just a woman during my formative years. This led to my being diffident, tongue-tied, and inexpressive, and heightened during one of the most devastating experiences of my life. That was the death of my father. He was my confidant and friend, one whom I literally shared everything with. And so when he died, things got worse for me. It was quite different with my mom because I didn't have a close relationship with her. And so I took a drastic decision then. That led me into several abusive relationships. I even attempted suicide on several occasions. These relationships left me worse than I was. And so in December 2015, I took a decision. That decision was to run away from home. I wasn't jobless at that period, no. I was working as a secretary in an auto diagnostic company while engaged in other businesses. One is the hawking of the popular drink called Zobo. And so I expected validation from the people whom I lived with, my family. And since I wasn't getting that, I decided to leave home. To achieve this, I resigned from the company I was working then. I was working as a secretary. And so I had it all nicely planned out. I would leave home, attend an event, and elope afterwards. That same year, it was the year UK has had her 2015 exhibition. So I intended to attend the event and run away afterwards. But fortunately and unfortunately, the words of one of the counselors made me change my plans. And so I couldn't run away. But I could not resume in my secretarial duties because I have resigned. So what I decided to do was to apply as a cleaner in a hospital close to where I lived. But I resigned too. I resigned too during that period. Miraculously, from references, I was called back to work as a secretary in the company I was working with. And it was in that period I met a man whose presence in my life I would internally be grateful for. But before I met him, I was faced with the challenge of yielding to the sexual advances from my boss, being efficient and effective at work, and battling with the feelings of inadequacies. It was really a difficult period for me. And so I returned to my source and I got into prayers. And God came through for me at that period. I no longer received the sexual advances from my boss, and I became effective at work. But I was still battling with the inadequate feelings. And that was when I met someone whose presence in my life I would internally be grateful for. I call him my blessing. He's the visionary of Amiable Global Impact. With a platform, Straight Talk, which is set to raise, mentor, guide, and train young individuals on purpose. He mentored, drilled me, and trained me on purpose. And so after meeting with him and after getting trained, everything took a U-turn. I discovered purpose, and I was willing to intentionally live my life. On one occasion, while discharging my secretarial duties, I met this young lady. She was different from the way I was raised. No one could talk to her the way I was being talked to. She spoke with confidence and assertiveness. And so I made inquiries and I got talking with her. I discovered that she is an English instructor, trained with an organization and also working in hers. I took special interest in what she did and decided to sign up for her training. But unfortunately, I could not afford the training at that period because of the meager salary I was earning as a secretary. What I did was to save enough so that I could attend the training. To achieve this, I pleaded with a shop owner close to where I was working with to allow me to spend the night in her shop so that I could save to raise the money for the training. She willingly agreed, and her shop is more of a container, if you understand what I'm talking about, a container. And so for over 3 months, I spent the night in a container just to raise the money to attend a training on purpose. God be it, I was able to raise the training, and for 3 months I was drilled on English instructing. But after the training, I discovered that I needed more. I was hungry because I was no longer the deafening and tongue-tied lady who could not express herself in public. Everything changed. And that was what led me to Shiloh Communication Outreach. Shiloh Communication Outreach trains individuals on English instructing. For over 3 years, I was trained on diction, phonics, and phonetics in Shiloh Communication Outreach, and was sent out there to reorientate the minds of others in English instructing. And so I was no longer the lady who has something to say but cannot say it because she's afraid of what people would say. She's afraid that someone will reject her idea and not pay attention to her. Everything about me took a U-turn. Now, why did I share my story? I shared my story because I found a platform to ignite and lend my voice to the word. I have courageously defeated the feelings of deflated self-esteem, charted a course for myself, and hungry to make an impact in the educational system of Africa through English. I was no longer the lady who would be so afraid to talk, the lady who was rejected, the lady who no one paid attention while she was growing up. English instructing transformed my life and changed everything about me. On the flip side, I also shared my story because in my journey thus far as an English instructor, I have discovered that much importance is not laid to pronunciation of words in this part of the word. We were taught all of these things, but we felt we don't need them. Our pronunciation is not important compared to other aspects of English like grammar, vocabulary, and lexicology. It is not going to be fair to blame our teachers. They were probably not taught properly either. Now, just like an Igbo man will find it difficult to understand when you mispronounce certain words. Do we have Igbo-speaking persons in the house? If you're in here, can you say hello? Okay, now the first picture I have there How would we pronounce it in Igbo? Okay, now flow with me. When you're communicating with someone and the person pronounces the former for the latter, when the person means the former, don't you think there is going to be a miscommunication? Thank you. Now that is how it is in English when we murder the pronunciation of words. Pronunciation is incredibly important if you want to be misunderstood. If you want to be understood with English-speaking friends, family, and others, it is very, very, very important. I am not saying it is not important compared to other aspects of English. It is clearly important. The point of this speech is that it's important as to other aspects of English. Now, according to English Word World, it has been proven that there are over 1.6 billion English speakers in the world. In several countries of the world, English is the language of education, English is the language of religion, English is the language of law precedents, and more. English is a global language. And if you want to participate in a global world, then you have to speak the language that global citizens speak. Now, I must admit that I've had persons squirm and give me this uncomfortable look when I pronounce certain words. Now, I'm going to have you pronounce these words. The first word I have there, how can we say it? How do we pronounce it? Now, according to how that word is transcribed, the correct pronunciation is epitome and not epitome. And what about the second? But the correct pronunciation is hyperbole and not hyperbole. Now, the point of this speech is not to make you speak through your nose. No, it is to pass across a clear method of pronouncing English words. I agree that a person's accent can influence the way they pronounce words, but being grounded on pronunciation makes it a lot more easier. And so with this, I want to make a call to you, educators, friends, family, teachers in the house. Please be more careful when you relate with English instructors, as there are more quacks than professionals out there. But it is also important that we rise and begin to pronounce words correctly. English is our primary means of inculcating knowledge, and so there is a need to teach it properly. Following this, I want to call on you. Please do not allow what others think of you to stop you from going after what makes your heart pant. You see, that idea that you've been nursing for a very long time, it is time to step up and get started on it. Do not allow your environment to hold you down. Break free of your limitations and introduce your innovations to the world. Your mind should not be subjected to the experiences you've been through. No, it should not conform. I can remember when I started 3 years ago as an English instructor in my religious community. When I was called up for a proclamation, the group of persons who were to listen to me that day mocked and laughed at me. But I'll tell you something, a year after I came back for that proclamation, and the same persons who laughed, the same persons who derided me, the same persons who made jest of what I was saying, stood up for an ovation. And so I want to challenge you, don't allow anybody talk you out of that idea. Get up and make that decision. My decision to speak English purposefully changed my life. And one of them is being employed to work as head of customer experience in Sabi Writers. Sabi Writers is a leading content writing agency here in Africa. I took a decision 3 years ago, and today it's a different story. To get up and take that decision and be that personality of undeniable value. The world is waiting for you. See you at the top. Thank you.